All right. Hello and welcome to the MESA Sessions, a show where we discuss the inner workings of the music and entertainment industry. Today we begin with a conversation about potential career paths in the music business. And joining us, we have Andrew Surmani, who is a professor of music industry studies and the academic lead for the Master of Music Industry Administration program here at CSUN. He is also the former chief marketing officer of Alfred Music, where he oversaw global sales, marketing, and product development. He's also a past president of the Jazz Education Network, and he currently serves as CEO and president of Surmani Business Coaching LLC. Professor, it's a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. So, obviously, today we're talking about jobs in the music industry, something that's on the mind of a lot of students and really a lot of people in the country these days. I wanted to start with a little bit of background and perspective from you. So you've had a very wide-ranging career throughout music education, business, and leadership roles. Can you share a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today, and sort of how that has informed your perspective on music and the industry?
Well, great. I grew up in the Bay Area, Oakland, California, and very rich musical heritage up in the Bay Area. And at that time, I was very much interested in becoming a professional trumpet player. And I remember seeing the Cal State Northridge Jazz A Band perform at the UC Berkeley Pacific Coast Jazz Festival. And I said, that's where I'm going to school. And even though I got accepted to UC Berkeley in letters and sciences, I chose to come to Cal State Northridge because of the great jazz program. But it wasn't just jazz only. They had a great symphony orchestra, a great wind ensemble, great opera program. So it was very well-rounded music department, and I was very glad to come here. I got to play in pretty much every group on campus, from wind ensemble to jazz band to marching band to symphony orchestra to opera orchestra, new music ensemble, brass ensemble. I did everything. And then when I was in Cal State Northridge, I was picked to be in the Disney World All-American College Band. And I was there during the summer and in Walt Disney World in Florida, and had a great time doing that. And then I graduated in 1986, and I was working with a music tour company that was taking groups on tour to Hawaii and Japan. In fact, one of the musicians in the Berkeley High School Jazz Band that was on that tour was the great jazz musician Joshua Redman, and also another group from Mount Pleasant High School in San Jose. So I was working with that company, World Projects, a company I'd worked with when I was in college as a counselor at their music camps. And then I got a call from Disney to come back out and work a show for a year, which was the 15th anniversary of Walt Disney World. It's hard to imagine it was 15 years. Now they've celebrated 50 years and 70 years in Disneyland. And also, I did work a couple parades at Disneyland, too. I was a toy soldier in the Christmas parade one time and American Gazette parade in the spring around the Easter time. So I've worked at both parks. But I was doing that show out at Disney World, 5 shows a day in front of the castle. And then we switched to another show, The Best of Disney, which was all the greatest hits of Disney. So I was doing 2 shows during the summer. But an important turning point happened in my life there, where we had a guest speaker come out who was a famous Las Vegas performer. His name is Wayne Newton. And he talked to our instrumentalists and singers and dancers. And he said, if you would be on the street corner performing, whether you got paid or not, you need to become a performer. And that was at the moment when I realized, no, I wouldn't do that. I want to have a house. I want to have a family. I want to have a wife, So I'm like, okay, I need to search for something else. Well, when I was a student at Cal State Northridge, there were no music business programs at the time in the 80s. I went and researched, and I didn't really know much about the music industry, to be honest with you. I went to the University of Central Florida Library, and I discovered there was a whole music industry, which I shouldn't have been surprised about. But I decided to come back to LA, and because there was no music business program here, I wanted to start working right away. Once you start getting paid, as you don't want to stop working and go back to school and go into a lot of financial debt. So I'm like, well, I want to find something that can fit with my job, which I started at Alfred Music in January of 1988. And so I wanted to get another degree. And at that time, I decided to get an MBA degree. And the perfect option was Cal State Northridge because it was literally 15 minutes from my office at Alfred. And I could work during the day, and then I can go to night school part-time at Cal State Northridge and also apply what I was learning at my job at Alfred. So it really brought together my three greatest passions, which was music, of course, but also business and education. Alfred was an educational music publisher, and coming to work at go to school at Cal State Northridge was advancing that educational element as well.
Perfect. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the, at least from being a faculty member, you see lots of students all the time who are kind of wondering what they should do with their career. What are some careers in the music industry that you think today, if someone were to ask you, they don't know what they want to do, would be a strong choice for them to pursue with a good outlook?
Well, the thing to remember is that the music industry is a lot bigger than you may think it is. You look at a lot of people, when you talk about the music industry, they think of the record business because that's the most upfront business and it gets the most attention. But that's just one sector of the music industry. I like to look at the music industry in terms of 5 major sectors. One being music publishing and copyright administration, another one being the recording industry, another one being the live performance sector, and then the other one being music and media, which is film and television and video games. And finally, one that doesn't get a lot of attention, but is still a big business, 19 billion globally, is the music product sector. And that comes to light if you ever attend the NAMM show in Anaheim in January. So you have to look across all those sectors, and there's certain jobs that are specific to each sector, but there are also jobs that cross over sectors, marketing and sales and finance. Every sector needs that. But in publishing, you'll have people focusing on royalties and copyrights and licensing and all that stuff. And in the recording industry, it's the record production, but also the promotion and distribution and live performance, which is now the largest industry. It was before COVID, and then it's back again, is about putting concerts on tour all over the world. And really, when I mean all over the world, I mean all over the world. And that is the largest sector now, and it's really strong. I'm sure you heard that Taylor Swift earned over $2 billion on her Eras tour. And
I heard her crew made a lot of money too.
Yeah. She gave some bonus checks to the drivers, the truck drivers, which was really great because to put a show like that on the tour could mean like 18-wheeler trucks traveling all over the place. So the live performance, and then we're using music more and more in media because there's so much content out there. You know, we can't even stay up to speed with all the movies and television shows that we want to see. We have a whole list. They all need music. And so with that involves licensing and sync licensing and performance income. And so you have that, and then all the support equipment that supports live performance or recording, which are keyboards and drums and strings and all the good stuff that musicians need to perform. So that's the music product sector. So there are some jobs that are specific to individual sectors, but then there are also jobs that can cross over all sectors. And when you think of the support team for an artist, you have an attorney, you have a manager, a personal manager, you have a business manager that manages the money, you have a talent agent that books gigs for them, you have a PR person. There's a whole support group that supports artists. So there are many jobs across all the industries and sectors, and it just involves some digging. But the good thing is we have a lot of CSUN alumni working in the industry.
So what about for students that aren't necessarily music majors, but are interested in music? I know a lot of our MESA members have sort of expressed interest in the industry, but they're not actively pursuing a music or music business education. How would you direct those students, like where to look if they want to work around music or the entertainment industry, how to kind of get their foot in the door?
You have to look for opportunities. You have to go to an event. I'm going to say this a million times throughout this interview, but also, with my students, you have to network. There are things going on all the time, and opportunities happen when you go and you meet people and make connections, and then they let you know that there's an opening or an internship or a job, and you apply and you get in. So of course, the MIS program, you're required to play an instrument and audition on an instrument. So that's in order to get in, you have to do that. In the graduate music industry administration degree program, you don't even need to be a musician. You just have to have a passion for music. So I have students that come into that program with all different kinds of backgrounds, communications and business and, sociology and psychology and, you name it. But they have a love and passion for the music industry, so they want to work in it. And I just had a student in my current cohort, cohort 14, who got a degree in communications from Cal State Northridge. So he is not a musician himself, but he graduated from our college. He just got an internship at Insomniac, and he loves EDM music, and there's no other organization larger than Insomniac, which is based in Calabasas, that prevents EDM concerts. So he just talked to people, and ironically, he's being interviewed and trained by a former MIA alumnus, Alyssa Kearney, who graduated from the MIA program. So we have MIA alumni out there in all these industries, and they kind of help them. I talk about the CSUN Gammon, the CSUN Global Alumni Music Industry Network. And it truly is. I just Zoomed with one of my former students in Shanghai, China last night. And I'm trying to organize all the alumni that I have from the Asia Pacific region, which are about 16. I've got them in China, I got them in Thailand, I got them in Japan. So that network has incredible value, because when you're looking for those jobs, they'll call attention to us, and they let me know and let Professor Bailey know when there are internships and jobs in the industry. So the big thing is, it's a long-winded answer, but you just got to get your foot in the door.
Got it.
Just take something, whatever it is, even if it's not the thing that you want to do, because it's just one more thing that you can list on your resume as an experience.
Great. Just another sort of fun question. You've had such an experience with the industry, working with all sorts of people. What do you think is like a hidden gem kind of career, like just a really cool job that you think is cool that people have?
Well, I've always had a passion for marketing, because that's about, it's about creating demand for a product, especially now when everybody can upload all their music to all the digital sites. It's wonderful in some respects, because the barriers to entry are low. You don't have to go through a record company A&R person. You can just make your recordings, you can put them up there. But how do you build a market, and how do you develop that kind of fan base that Beyonce and Taylor Swift have with the Beehives and the Swifties, where they'll just buy anything and they'll pay any price? Well, so I've always been interested in marketing, and especially today where things are digital, and you look at content creators that have this amazing following. So I've always enjoyed that field, but sales also, sometimes it gets a bad rap. You think of sales as the used car salesman, right. But every company needs sales. And if you're comfortable talking to customers and you believe in your product, there's always a job for sales in every sector, in every industry. So sales is a great opportunity. And salespeople can also make commissions, and they can make a lot of money, if they hit their targets or exceed their targets and bonuses. So I do like those. There's a whole bunch of creative roles that support artists, whether they're in the studio as an engineer or mixing person, or, a tech person, or working on live shows. As you know, Professor Bailey was on 2 major tours this summer. He was on with October London and Drake, working the monitors for the sound, because you have the monitors for the musicians on stage, and then you have front of house. So, that's an incredible fun thing to do if you like touring and traveling.
I would have to personally agree on that one. All right. I think that was great. That was really insightful. Now, we sort of touched on this when you brought up networking, but what are some essential skills that you think every student or anyone pursuing a career in music needs to work on and build for themselves to have success?
That's a good question. I actually talk about Professor Surmani's Circle of Success, which has 3 segments. One is your knowledge and abilities. You have to understand how things work. You have to understand copyright and what are the rights of copyright and how to exploit that, and understand how to read a record contract and a publishing contract and a live performance agreement. all the legal stuff that artists have to sign. It's important to know that even though you'll hire lawyers to look at them, you shouldn't just hand things off to anybody, especially on the financial side, because that's also where money can disappear when someone's managing your money and then all of a sudden you don't have it and it's not being invested and taxes aren't being paid. So one is the knowledge and abilities. The other one is your networking. It's who you know is going to get you the job. What you know is going to allow you to keep the job, your knowledge and abilities. But a really critical element that we don't focus enough attention on are what we call your essential skills for success, your interpersonal skills. Some people refer to them as your soft skills. That is your likability, your positivity, your ability to work well with others, your ability to adapt quickly to a changing environment, your ability to improvise. So, when it comes down to it, I have a friend, I always talk about the story. He's a senior vice president at the Motion Picture Academy. And he says by the time someone comes through HR and comes to him, they've already been vetted in so many different ways. The number one thing he looks at is this a likable person? Is this a person I'm going to want to work with 8 hours a day? So, we have a lot of negativity, a lot of bad stuff being thrown at us all the time in the news and the media and social media. And, we want to be with people that bring that positive vibe. We want to try to cut as much of that out of. I mean, we can only control what we can control. We can't control what's going on in the news, but we can control what's happening in our circle. So if you're a nice person and we can work well together, I'm going to want to work with you. And if you're not, then I'm not.
Right. Makes lots of sense. Now, music is obviously a creative, endeavor in pretty much any case. How important do you think it is for anyone in the industry, regardless of their career, to sort of balance creative skills with the more professional technical skills?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, we've heard so many stories of the greatest musicians of all time being ripped off and signing crazy deals. And Elvis had a deal where his manager got 50%, and he never took him on tour to international places because he was not an American citizen himself, and he was afraid he couldn't get back into the country. So understanding the business part of it, especially like publishing, and I think artists are so much better at that than they were before. Early on in the music business, everything was kind of segmented. You were a music publisher and that was it. And then a songwriter would come to you and that's all they did. They were just a songwriter and they'd present the song to you. And then someone would take that song and plug it to an artist. They were just an artist. They didn't do anything else. Well, that started to change during the singer-songwriting era when were like the Brill Building and Carole King and James Taylor and those, and even the Beatles that started as a cover band, then they started to write their own songs. So as that era came about, they became much more aware of, oh, wow, I have not only my artist royalties that I'm going to make, but my songwriter royalties, my mechanicals and my performance for my songs being performed and on audio recording. So I think they've gotten smarter about that. But the thing is, even today, there's so many cases where, for example, we have a student who came from my program, cohort 2. He's the head of third-party partnerships for the Mechanical Licensing Collective. And he so many times finds artists who also wrote the songs who are leaving all this money on the table because they don't realize there's mechanical income for the song. And they have followers of 2 million people, but they're getting their royalties, and he's been able to recapture money for them, which allowed them to pay their rent or, have a marriage and pay for their wedding. So you have to understand, because there's a lot of different revenue streams from all the different activities you do as an artist. So even though you're going to hire a team to work with you, you have to understand where all the potential to make money is, because you don't want any money left on the table.
Follow up to that, do you think on the other side of things, someone who's more on the business side of music, do you think that there's a big place for creativity in those spaces
Absolutely.
as well?
Absolutely. 100%. Not everyone is cut out for being on stage. I think you should have the experience of being on stage. And I did that for millions of audience members at Walt Disney World. I stepped on that stage. I performed for them all the time. It takes a special type of skill to do that. But there is creativity that comes on behind the scenes for how the artist looks, their dress, the show, the way their selection of repertoire, what kind of deals they do, who they collaborate with. There's creativity all over the place in terms of that. And that comes from a manager looking at the whole picture because they're the CEO and head of their career. So they're helping them make good strategic. So they're, creative decisions involved in that. But then there could be, an art director, and there could be a show director, and, they're working on specific creative elements. They're not on stage, but they're, working on the dance moves or the costumes, or tying it with the repertoire. Our A&R people are trying to marry great repertoire with great artists, and working with songwriters to, enhance the songs and improve them. There's all kinds of creativity. It's not just, tracking royalties and enter stuff. That can be tedious, but some people love that. But there's also creative elements for how to take the most out of the artists and their creative work and bring it to the masses.
Great. I want to shift focus and talk about some of the current trends in the music industry. What do you think some of the trends going on right now are that are going to have the biggest impact on students that are entering the workforce?
Okay, well, number one, I'm going to say AI, which we'll probably come back to a whole topic just on AI. That is the most topical subject, not only in our industry, but in every industry right now. I just heard recently that they're going to have robots serve as umpires in baseball. That's going to be interesting. I'm wondering, will they always be 100% accurate on balls and strikes or what? But, that, of course, we'll come back to that. But I think, as I've said before, we're living in the kind of the DIY world where you could be someone like Billie Eilish and record your albums in your bedroom and earn 5 Grammy Awards for it. You don't have to go to a major recording studio for that. So you can record very professionally at home. You can write great songs, collaborate with people all over the world. So the DIY, and there's a lot of great tools. There's websites and apps to help you sell tickets or promote your act, or, it's great. There's a lot of tools out there. So everyone's kind of doing that. The thing is, record companies, they're not like they were during, let's say, the Motown era, where they're going to create an artist from scratch. They're not going to do that. It's too much money and too much time. They're only going to invest in somebody who's got an incredible following somewhere, and they feel that if they can take him to more of the masses all over the world, they can exploit that. So an artist needs to, build a following and a fan base, by themselves, and they could eventually sign with a major label or major publisher if they want to down the road. But they're going to have to build that initial customer fan base themselves through YouTube and through local performances and all their social media, So that's a big trend. It's exciting on one part because anybody can do it. Anybody has a chance. You don't, like I said, you don't have the gatekeeper anymore. You can do that, but you could be one of hundreds of millions of recordings up on a streaming service. And how does anybody find you? They have to know. They have to have a spark to. So that it's both good and bad. It's, like I said, a leveling of the playing field, but also the need to gain exposure. So that's a big trend in the industry now.
And then as far as the job market, how do you feel that's been sort of reallocated over the years? Because obviously the record industry, as you said, used to be huge. Yeah. And then with streaming, it's sort of gotten smaller and smaller. And today, they don't really have recording studios like they used to because, as you said, people can mix an album in their bedroom. So do you feel there's any areas where we've gained jobs? Or how do you think that that's sort of affected the landscape of where people actually work on the ground in the music industry today?
Well, I think I would say just jobs have changed. Certain roles that are out there, let's say outside of music, if you worked in a dark room at a printing company, they don't have that job anymore. It's digital publishing. So the job market has changed and it will continue to change. And this AI revolution is changing it once again more than I've ever seen in my lifetime, because there's so many ways to use AI to help streamline processes. And many companies are trying to get by with less people and using AI for that. So I think my big thing with AI is that I feel our students have to become experts on all ways to use AI so that they're not left behind. They're not going to, I think more of a likelihood they're going to be replaced by someone who knows how to use AI better than they will by just strictly AI. So I think they need to embrace and understand how AI can be used, especially to streamline work and, help find stuff. It's everywhere. It's in every application. It's in everything we do nowadays.
I know a lot of students are sort of apprehensive to use AI because it gets sort of a bad rap as the, magic solution to write your papers for you.
Yeah.
What would you say to a student that's interested in its application as a tool, as you were saying, but like, where would you start?
Well, actually, there's a great business coach that I have a great friendship with. His name is Rick Drum. He had a tremendous career in the music industry. He was the president of D'Addario, the president of Vic First Sticks, the president of Midco. He played drums with the Barnum and Bailey Circus. His dad was involved with that. And the way he embraces AI is he looks at AI as he's an AI producer. It's his creative content that wrote his book. It's his creative content that developed his methodology, but he uses AI as a way to scale it up and to enhance it and bring it to more people. Like he's written an incredible book on, focus. We're so distracted by so many different things. We can't, if we can just maximize our focus time, we'd get so much more done. And he wrote, a great book that he self-published, and he's selling on Amazon as a digital copy and as a print-on-demand copy. He told me he may also do a hardbound edition. That's something he could do himself. He doesn't have to go. Well, now he's going to customize that for specific industries using the exact terminology in some of the industries he works with, such as pharmaceuticals. He's working outside of the industry as much too. So that's a way where he can take an idea that he developed, his concepts, but he's applying it to specific industries. So that's how we can use AI, not to replace our creative thought, but take our creativity and just blow it up to a much more broader audience and exposure. That's how we use AI for a positive good, not to write our papers, not to write our speeches, but maybe give us some ideas on what direction to take.
Great answer. Now I want to take some time to for some advice and reflection from you. So for students that want to break into the industry, what is, let's say, the biggest piece of advice that you would give them as they're taking their first steps into the business?
Get out there, go to events, meet people. We are living in Los Angeles, the capital of the music industry. We're not in the middle of the Midwest, in the middle of a place where there's not a big industry. There's so many things happening here all the time. And my biggest advice is, yes, of course you have to complete your coursework, you have to do your quizzes and tests and write your papers and all that stuff. But if you don't get out and go to these incredible events that are happening, you're missing golden opportunities. We'll have the Taxi Road Rally in November that we're going to be a sponsor, let our students go to that. It's how to match up sync opportunities with composition. Then there's a live performance production event happening in Palm Springs in January that another former MIAE student brought to me that is free to students. There's online stuff like tomorrow and there's stuff all the time in person. So my biggest advice is to get out there, go to things, you learn things, but you also make connections. Even at my age, even when I'm tired, I don't want to get on the road and drive to downtown Los Angeles. Without exception, every single time I go to something that I wasn't super excited about, I either reconnect with somebody or I meet somebody new. I'm always building my network, always, or refining my network, adding names, marking down who I met, where I met them, connecting with them, following up. So that's the thing, is get out there and meet people, because those opportunities come up from somebody that you met. Hey, I remember meeting you at this event, and I just want to let you know we have a new opening at our company. We had a company reach out to us just recently, and they turned out to be the largest business management firm in the entire country. They hire 120 people. They have an office in Encino. Professor Bailey and I are going to go visit them in October, and we want to perhaps have them involved in a job fair for our music students and stuff. Well, it's just as important for me to make those connections, not only for myself, but for my students, because that creates job opportunities, internship opportunities, a tremendous thing. So that's the biggest advice: is get out there, make connections, and be a nice person.
And then as far as like the mindset for people that want to work in the industry, what do you think are some good tips to sort of like guide yourself going forward? Obviously this industry can be difficult sometimes. You don't always get the gig. People are going to tell you no, probably just as much as they tell you yes.
Yes.
How would you approach that? What do you think the best mindset for
You
someone
have to have a positive attitude. The more no's you hear, the closer you are to a yes. And you can't be knocked down by every no you hear. Nothing's going to be handed to you. You're going to have to work hard for everything, and you're going to have to take a lot of rejection. And it's not anything against you personally. It's because these people may not know you, or they're, like I said, they have an inside connection because someone who works there has a friend, and a lot of promotions happen internally. It's not anything. Well, it could be you personally if you've got a bad attitude or you don't know anything. So yeah, it can be, but you have to be used to taking rejection. If you can get some feedback from people, if you apply for something and you don't get the job, any kind of feedback, just like, I have to have course evaluations with my students, and they tell me things, and I don't want to hear them sometimes, but, I read them and I say, okay, this is a good point. I'm going to try to improve this aspect of my teaching every time. There's always stuff I can improve on. I mean, there's going to be people that don't like me and don't like my approach, but there are some good nuggets in the reviews that I always do every time. What can I do? How can I communicate better, make the curriculum clearer, etc.
Great. And now as we move towards the close of this episode, I want to ask you, is there anything that you're currently working on that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm working personally. I'm working on projects in the music industry and projects outside of the industry. So one of the things I'm working with, I was asked to join the board of the Sessions. Very excited to be on this nonprofit board. And they've got over 50,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel. They've done interviews with everybody you can think of. They just released an interview with Ringo Starr recently. They have some of the greatest musicians in the world. This organization was started by a lady named Jules Follett. She wrote an incredible book called Sticks and Skins. It's a hardbound coffee table book where she went and interviewed the greatest drummers of all time. And it's in this book. In fact, we used to distribute this book at Alfred when I worked there. And she's a photographer. And in the process of interviewing these drummers, she realized how many of them were down and out financially, like struggling, even though they played on some of the greatest records and played with the greatest artists of all times. So as such, she started this nonprofit that she funded with her own money. In fact, her husband was a part of the Follett bookstore chain of, the Matador bookstore is a Follett bookstore. Mm-hmm. So they have the most college bookstores on college campus. So she started this nonprofit, and it's about going to schools and students and telling them about the business side of the industry. Now, of course, we have a very strong music industry studies program. It's really more for, like, say, the performance majors and the music education majors and the people who are not getting the business side of it. But even our side can, benefit from that. There's a lawyer involved, Paul Quinn, who represents a lot of great artists. He talks about the legal aspect. Libra DeVito played drums with Billy Joel, and Christine Ullman, the Beehive Queen, performs on Saturday Night Live. All these kinds of people, plus business people, talking about the industry. And one of the things that we just launched recently, so they asked me to join the board at the NAMM show just this January. And one of the things I've been helping them with are these micro courses, which talk about specific jobs in the industry, whether it's an A&R representative or an attorney or a tour manager. It's a short course with some information, career paths, what kind of things you're going to do on that job, etc. And we've already launched 37 courses. One of them is a 10-course copyright basics, which was authored by Paul Quinn, the attorney, because he deals with this all the time. And then I've been working on a batch of other great courses for that, including resumes and cover letters, and how to do an interview, and how to find an internship, and essential skills for success, and all these things. So those are available on the sessions.learnworlds.com. Learnworlds.com is an LMS site, and it's where people sell courses of content that they want to get out to the masses. So that information is there at thesessions.learnworlds.com. The 37 are there now. And then the other 13 that I've been proofing and giving them corrections, they're going to be up there soon once those updates have been made. So those are some, that's one big project I've been spending a lot of time working on. And we presented it to some teachers at the Music Will Conference in Fort Collins, Colorado back in June. And there's a lot of interest from that. So that's a project. I'm working with a music publishing company, a Christian music publishing company in Nashville, someone who I've known for many, many years. He's worked in all of the major Christian music publishers, and I'm helping him with this catalog, making sure he's getting everything properly registered and distribution deals and all that kind of stuff. And then I have some clients outside of the music industry, and one of them is a former 2-time Super Bowl champion.
Wow.
And he played on the offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers. His name is Marvell Smith. And ironically, which had nothing to do with the way I got connected to him through a former MIA student. That's how I got connected. But it turns out he went to my high school in Oakland, Skyline High School. But I'm older than him, so we weren't there at the same time. But he has a video platform where a player or a coach would upload links to videos, and then he, as a 2-time Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, All-American at ASU, he goes through and analyzes and tell them what they can do. So that's another fun project outside of the industry. I'm also working with a lawn care and pest control business, because the principles of business that I work on and business coaching that can be applied to any area. So I'm always working with a lot of different companies on that. I'm working with another composer on helping him with his catalog. There's all kinds of projects I'm involved with.
That's very exciting. Now, earlier we mentioned a little bit about the master's program at CSUN.
Yes.
I want to close by asking you if you could just sort of give us the pitch for your program, since you're very heavily involved in that on the academic side. What makes the MIA program at CSUN unique, and what do you think the appeal is to people, as we were discussing earlier, that are maybe outside of music in their primary discipline that want to still be part of the music industry?
Okay, well, first of all, I got involved with that because when I was with Alfred, they had the undergraduate music industry studies program, which they launched in 1994. And then they wanted to launch a master's program. So they put together an advisory committee, of which I was there representing publishing, and someone was a lawyer, and so I was an advisor. And then when they launched the degree, they told me to apply for it. And I said, well, I have a job at Alfred. I can't really do this. But I applied anyway, and I got offered the job. And I still continue to work at Alfred for several years and do that at the same time. But it was the first graduate level master's program in music industry on the West Coast. Now they've got programs at other universities, which I won't mention. But what makes ours unique? The incredible faculty. So I try to find people who obviously are great teachers, because I can't have like someone from the industry who's not a good teacher. So finding the right balance, be someone who can teach and also have real world current experience is critical. And I think that's what we've done. Like, for example, I have experience. I teach the first class. The next class is research, data, and analytics. You're working with some of the top research, data, analytics people in the industry, like Dave Bakula, who was the guy that they quoted all the time, who was involved in Nielsen SoundScan, because he worked at Nielsen, then he worked for Apple, then he worked for another investment company that bought Calix. Now he's with Irving Azoff's Iconic Artist Group, some of the top artists in the world. So he's there. Stacey DeArmas is a top person at Nielsen. She's a leader in DEI data and analytics. She's talking all over the world. So that's the class they're getting next. Professor DeGravel is a great strategist and business mind. He's doing workshops all the time. He spent the whole summer in Vietnam coaching, working with people and companies over there. And then we hired, this will be the second year coming up, someone who's from the Business and Legal Affairs Department of Sony Pictures Entertainment. She's an attorney. She's dealing with record contracts and with all these contracts all the time. So Zara Al-Nadaf, she's a fantastic addition to our team. So you've got her. And then during the summer, you have a guy who used to be a business manager for, or still is for, financial companies doing their accounting and, so he's teaching financial manager accounting. He's worked with some of the, when he brings in a tour budget, it's a real tour budget. He'll have to say, well, this is kind of like this group, but not really this. And then you have Professor Teagarden, who worked for Universal Music Publishing for a while, and then same from the recording industry. As I said, Professor Bailey has live experience working there all the time. He's teaching that class. We have one of the leading marketers of luxury brands teaching the marketing class and co-teaching the entrepreneurship class. And then we do a graduate project. So I would say, the faculty, the real world experience, we're doing a deep dive in music publishing and live performance and recording, but also data and analytics using the top databases in the world, Luminate and Polestar Pro and Chartmetric. So students who work on these programs can go into the industry where companies spend millions of dollars for these programs and be able to say, yeah, I know how to use Luminate and stuff like that.
And then what does it look like for your master's students? Are a lot of them working and then coming to school full time? How long is the program?
Yes, it is primarily geared for full-time people because the classes are nights, either Tuesday night or Wednesday night, 6:30 to 10, and then every other Saturday, 8:30 to 2. And so most of them are working already, and we're now online. We went online officially with cohort 10, although cohort 9 went on earlier because of COVID. But so I have students. I have a student in my program right now who lives in Puerto Rico, and I have another one in Arkansas. I've had them in China, and all over the place. So it's an online program. Although 70% of the students who are in the current cohort 14 that just started, they do live locally, so they can come to these events. They can network, and we had an orientation, and they got to many of them being part there. So they don't have to have a music background. They have to have a passion for music and a desire to really get out there and take care of the three components that I talk about. I'll be working on the knowledge and abilities, but they have to network and they have to have really essential skills. And we'll talk about those, but they have to be a likable person and create interest with people that they go to meet.
Great. I really appreciate you coming on the show. It's
All
great
right.
to have you, Professor.
Great to have you, and have you as a student also.
Of course. All right. Thanks for tuning into the MESA Sessions. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the future episodes. This show is for all of you, so feel free to reach out if you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, topics, and guests. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to connect with MESA on social media at CSUN MESA to stay up to date with our sessions, events, and more. Till next time, thanks for watching.
You gotta just you gotta do it without those guideposts. So, but it's tough. But you gotta just be positive. Like, okay, this didn't work out, but there's another opportunity around the corner. Sometimes things don't work out, and in the end, it turns out that was a great thing because that led to this opportunity.
Totally.
Yeah. So. I look at my life and I go, it's kind of like a batting average, There's times when I struck out, and I look at if I have a good batting average, like there are things that I did in my life, that was a failure. This was a success. If I'm still like having a good average, and I think it was like 576, that's pretty good in baseball, like I'm still, but I go for it. I always go for it because I'm not afraid to fail. Every time I fail, I learn something. I learn something in the process, because if you don't put yourself out there and fall on your face, you're never going to really learn.
Yeah.